In this video, I'm going to show you how to cast on an I-cord so that you can knit towards both sides, how to pick up stitches from the I-cord so that you can knit the I-cord as you go and it wraps around your whole project. And then lastly, I will show you how to bind off all the stitches and how to graft your I-cord together. So let's begin by making a slip knot and placing that onto your needle. The slip knot stitch will not count as a stitch when we cast on. We will cast on 6 stitches in total, 3 on each needle. You will put your needles parallel to each other like this, your tail end being at the back and your working yarn in the middle of the 2 needles. To cast on the stitches, we are going to move the yarn in between the needles in a figure 8 motion. So take your working yarn over the bottom needle like that and wrap it around over the top needle in this figure 8 motion. So you've cast on 1 stitch at the bottom needle and 1 at the top. So that is 2, 2, 3 and 3. The slip stitch will not count as a stitch. Right. Then turn your needles 180 degrees to the side and we are going to knit these first 3 stitches, but keep in mind that their orientation is not right. They are mounted incorrectly, so we will be knitting them all through the back leg. And be careful to not let this last stitch fall off, because then you'll only have 2 stitches for the bottom of your I-cord. So we're going to knit through that back leg through the back leg of the next stitch and through the back leg of the last stitch. Now these stitches will just hang out here on the cable. Don't worry about this loosey-goosey stitch. When we throw this off, it will all be fixed. Right, now to knit the I-cord, slip your stitches back onto the left needle and knit them again. And we'll do that again. And let's do that one more time. Right, so we will keep knitting the I-cord until we have enough V's to pick up the amount of stitches for the project that you are making. So what I mean with V's are these little V's underneath the stitch on your needle. That will be 1 stitch that we can pick up from, and another stitch that we can pick up from, and a third. So if I needed 3 stitches for my project, this would be the time to start picking up the stitches from this I-cord. I need quite a few more, so I'm going to knit my I-cord a little bit longer, and then I'll be back here and I will show you how to pick up the stitches from these little V's for your project. I now have enough stitches on my I-cord so that I can pick up 25 stitches for my project. So to pick up the stitches from the I-cord, you will take the V underneath the last worked stitch of your I-cord, so there, and you will put your needle through both legs, yarn over and pull the stitch through. So I'll take my needle tip, will go underneath both legs of that V, yarn over and pull the stitch onto my needle, and then locate the next little V underneath that one, both the legs on my needle tip, yarn over and pull the stitch onto my needle. So that is my 3 I-cord stitches and 2 from my I-cord, like that. And then you will just keep picking up all of the stitches until you have all the little V's picked up from the I-cord to work the project. I have one more stitch to pick up from my little I-cord. And that is 3 I-cord stitches and 25 for my project. Right now we have to put these 3 stitches onto this needle. So to do that, we will have to twist these stitches around so that we can get them on the needle in the correct way to make the I-cord. So what I do is I use a spare DPN in the same size as my project. Then just work these stitches onto the needle. The slip stitch that we made you can now drop off, we don't need it anymore, it was just an anchoring stitch. Then transfer the stitches onto a DPN, and then we need to transfer them to this needle. We will only do this once, and make sure that your working yarn is coming to the front of the work before you do this, and that your tail end is at the back of the work. So let me just zoom out a little bit. So to get these stitches on the needle, you will take the DPN and twist it towards your body like this, so that the stitches have a little twist to them. And then you'll just transfer them onto your needle. So this is what it will look like. You will have your 3 I-cord stitches. I have 25 for my project, and then the 3 last I-cord stitches. Tail end at the back of the work, working yarn at the front of the work. So this will be your front of your work, your right side, and the end with your tail end coming from the top of the I-cord is the wrong side of your work. So to knit the body of your project, you will, for every row, wrong side and right side, knit the first 3 stitches, knit whatever you want to do the body of the work, and then the last 3 stitches you will bring your working yarn to the front and you will slip the last 3 stitches purlwise. So let me just show you how that looks. I'm going to knit the first 3 stitches. I'm working a garter project, so I will knit all of my stitches until the last 3 stitches of the row remains. When I have 3 stitches left on the needle, I'll bring my working yarn to the front and I will simply slip those 3 stitches over. I have now knitted my square to enough rows that I want, and now I'm going to show you how to bind off. We will bind off all of the stitches in between the 3 I-cord stitches at the beginning of the row and at the end of the row, and then I will show you how to graft those together. To bind off the stitches, we are going to knit 2, slip your 3rd I-cord stitch knitwise, put it back on the needle and knit 2 together through the back leg to bind off the 1st stitch. Slip the 3 stitches back onto your left needle and repeat. Knit 2, slip the 3rd stitch knitwise, put it back on the left needle and knit those 2 stitches together, and you've bound off 2. Put them back on the left needle, knit 2 stitches, slip your 3rd stitch knitwise, put it back on the left needle and knit 2 together through the back leg. And you will continue doing that until you have reached the last 3 stitches on this left needle. I have one more stitch to bind off. And now I only have my 3 I-cord stitches on each needle. So let me show you how to graft them together. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail for grafting and weaving away the end. Now before we can start this graft, we will have to change this needle around because we need the 2 tips to be next to each other to be able to graft, because these stitches needs to be grafted in this manner from this side to that side. So to do that, I'm just going to grab my spare DPN and I'm going to slide these stitches onto the DPN, slide them over to the other tip of my DPN, and then just pick them up with a needle again. Right, so now we can graft these stitches together. Thread your tail onto a yarn needle, and then we are going to be working underneath the tips, so make sure that your yarn is always underneath the tips. And when we do the first graft, we are going to tug on this a little bit just to tighten up this stitch, otherwise it can look a little bit messy. So let's start. To graft the stitches, we are going to go into this is the right needle as we have knitted the project. So for the right needle's first stitch, we are going to go in as if to knit and leave everything on the needle. Don't take anything off yet. Then on the left needle we are going to go into the first stitch as if to pull, and also leave everything on the needle. Then we are going to start working the stitches and taking them off. So on the right needle we're going to go into the first stitch as if to knit and take it off the needle, and go back into the second stitch as if to pull, leaving it on the needle. Take your yarn underneath the tips into the left needle, first stitch as if to pull, first stitch as if to pull, taking it off the needle, and the second stitch go in as if to knit, leaving it on the needle. Then on the right needle go into the first stitch as if to knit, taking it off the needle, into the second stitch as if to pull, leaving it on, and the left needle go into the first stitch as if to pull, taking it off, and into the last stitch as if to knit, leaving it on. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to go into both stitches as if to knit and take my needles out. Right, if you find that your first stitch underneath the graft here is a little bit big, you can manipulate it a little bit like when grafting a toe together. Just remember that this was the last knitted stitch and you will have to follow your yarn to your first little stitch that you grafted to pull this one closed and work your way back. Alright, so that is the graft complete. So to work away this end, I like to just lift my I-cord a little bit and put my yarn needle underneath the I-cord and make sure that it comes out at the base of the I-cord at the back, and pull that yarn through. And then I like to make a small knot at the back just to keep everything secured. Like this. It should be laying more flat. Okay. And then you can just weave away the end and hide it right inside this I-cord. Alright, so that is the I-cord complete around this project. Right, so this is what the project will look like after you have finished binding off and grafting together. So we started at this side, we knitted the I-cord, picked up all of the stitches, turned the I-cord, and started wrapping the I-cord to knit I-cord as you go. You can see this corner here is looking very nice, where we did that twist of the stitches to be able to get them on the side. And I wanted to show you quickly what it looks like when you do this technique, but you cast on with Judy's Magic Cast On. That causes the end of your stitches to make a severe twist that is not looking very neat. So I would not recommend doing this type of technique with Judy's Magic Cast On, but rather the cast on that I've shown in this video. If you find this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to see more of my content, and I will see you in the next one.